Hello, I'll be reading an article from the Daily Express titled Prince Charles, Executive Jet with Big Carbon Footprint Gets Him to Climate Change Talks. This is posted on December 16th, 2009. If you don't want to hear my voice, just turn down the volume. Um, Prince Charles used up 7 months worth of the average British person's carbon footprint yesterday flying to Copenhagen on an executive jet to make a speech on climate change. The heir to the throne, who prides himself on his green credentials, cost taxpayers an estimated, I believe this is £12,000. Someone just write if I'm wrong, but make a comment if I'm wrong on that. But I think it's £12,000 and racked up a 6.486 ton carbon footprint in one day by taking a seven-seater RAF Royal Flight HS125 jet to the summit in Danish capital. Charles, who made an impassioned speech to the world later on the need to agree drastic cuts in carbon emissions, decided against taking a more environmentally friendly train or scheduled airliner, arguing it was impractical. We looked at the possibility of flying scheduled, but due to the usual considerations of security, punctuality, we could not afford a delayed or canceled flight, and practically using the Royal flight was seen as the best option, as spokesman said. Similar trips in the last couple of years have costed £12,000. The prince, who will offset the pollution he caused by using taxpayers' money to invest in environmentally friendly initiatives, generates an annual carbon footprint of 2,601 tons, compared to 11 tons for the average UK citizen. He was one of the numerous VIPs at the £130 million summit, which will generate 40,500 tons of carbon dioxide over 12 days, the equivalent to emissions of New York, Portsmouth, or the African country of Malawi in the same period. Charles told politicians they had only 7 years to prevent irreversible man-made weather changes. Quote, "I can only appeal to you to listen to the cries of those who are already suffering from the impact of climate change," he said. Just as mankind had the power to push the world to the brink, so too do we have the power to bring it back into balance, he said. You have been called to positions of responsibility at this critical time. The eyes of the world are upon you, and it is no understatement to say that, with your signatures, you can write our future. Charles, who has campaigned on environmental issues for 3 decades, warned of the dangers of climate change creating human catastrophes. But as he spoke, his efforts to broker an international deal for richer nations to pay poor countries to preserve the rainforests, a vital source of soaking up carbon dioxide, were unraveling. Developed nations refused to pay enough into the 20 billion pot, and third world countries refused to stick targets to reduce deforestation. Charles said it was easy to focus on worst case scenarios, but he added, "Take a moment to consider the opportunities if we succeed. Imagine a healthier, safer, and more sustainable, economically robust world, because if we share in that vision, we can share the will to action that is now required." He believed man's future could only be assured if people found ways of living as part of nature. He warned, "Climate change is a risk multiplier. It has the potential to take all the other critical issues we face as a global community and transform their severity into a cataclysm. Reducing poverty, increasing food production, combating terrorism, and sustaining economic development are all vital priorities, but it is increasingly clear now how rapid climate change will make them even more difficult to address." In a poll of Daily Express readers yesterday, 98% said they believe Britons are being conned over man-made global warming theories. And just to make a quick comment on this article, it says right here that according to these guys, the reason why the Copenhagen Treaty wasn't signed was not because of the whole disclosure with the ClimateGate and the leaked emails coming out of their biggest, East Anglia, their research facility, which is it's like their hub of all their evidence for this theory of man-made climate change, and how it basically proved that they were manipulating temperatures to fit their theory. But this paragraph right here is important because it says developed nations refuse to pay enough into the 20 billion pound pot, and third world countries refuse to stick to targets to that's not the reason why the treaty failed. It's because there's enough people who aren't believing exactly what they're told anymore. They're being more skeptical, and so this article, and it's not just this article, it's most mainstream media articles are covering this whole um, climate treaty in Copenhagen not being signed, uh, in a way that they're saying that it's because third world nations think that the first world nations aren't going to pay enough. It's not that. It's because a lot of people, because of the climate gate, and it's because of um, um, they even said that they're not going to be able to really get anything done, and that was like on the second day of the Copenhagen summit. They knew that they weren't going to really get anything done because they knew a lot of people were against it. So they've already planned. I think the next one is in Mexico, but they're gonna keep saying that this is the reason why it was failed, and it was a big failure because countries got together and all of a sudden they all backed out at the same time. And they're not gonna say why it really was. They're just gonna tell you why. So I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully it does. It's just another disinformation piece. So